Book of Heaven, Volume 23, Part 15. February 25th, 1928, Volume 23, How the Divine Will is Present in the Midst of Creatures as Center of Life. How the heartbeat is the king of one's nature, and the thought is the king of one's soul. My flight in the divine Fiat is continuous. It seems to me that Jesus, his communications, everything is over, more so since they are not in my power. If good Jesus does not deign to tell me anything else, I remain always the little ignorant one, because without him I cannot go forward, nor am I capable to either conceive or say even one vowel or one consonant more. So I must content myself, and become used to living one-on-one with the divine volition. In fact, it never leaves me. Even more, I feel it is incapable of leaving me, because I find it in me, outside of me, in each one of my acts, with the immensity of its light, lending itself to give life to my act. There is not one point in which I do not find it. Even more, there is no point or space, either in heaven or on earth, in which its life, its light, does not have primacy in the act of giving itself to creatures. So I find myself with the divine will that cannot leave me, and I cannot separate from it either. We are inseparable. It does not make the little escapes that Jesus makes from me. On the contrary, if I do not take it as prime act of my acts, it remains sorrowful, and it laments, for its act, its light, its life has not had primacy in my act. O divine will, how adorable, lovable, and insuperable you are! The more I go on, the more I comprehend you and love you. But while my poor mind wandered in the Fiat, my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, my will is present in the midst of creatures as center of life. Similarly, the human heart can be called king of one's nature. In fact, if the heart palpitates, the mind thinks, the mouth speaks, the hands operate, the feet walk. If the heart does not palpitate, all of a sudden everything ends, because the king of the poor nature is missing, and therefore the one who rules and gives life to the thought, to the word, and to everything that the creature can do, is missing. Similarly, the thought is king of the soul, the dwelling, the throne in which the soul carries out her activity, her life, her regime. Now, if the human nature wanted to suffocate the beating of the heart, to do without its king in speaking, thinking, and the like, what would happen? It itself would give death to all of its acts, so it would be the suicide of itself. And if the soul wanted to suffocate the thought, she would not find the way in order to carry out her activity, and therefore it would be like a king without kingdom and without people. Now, what the heart is for the human life, and the thought for the soul, my divine will is in each creature. It is like center of life, and from its incessant and eternal heartbeat, it palpitates, and the creature thinks, palpitates and speaks, walks, and operates. But creatures not only do not think about it, but suffocate it. They suffocate its light, its sanctity, its peace, the upright operating, the just and holy speaking, and some of them suffocate it so much as to render themselves the suicides of their souls. And my will in the low world is like a king without kingdom and without people, and creatures live as if they had no king, no divine life, no regime, because the king of their heartbeat, for their nature, and the king of their thought, for their souls, is missing. And since, because of its immensity, It envelops everything and everyone. It is forced to live as though suffocated within itself, because there is no one who receives its life, its attitude, its regime. But it wants to form its kingdom on earth. It wants to have its chosen and faithful people. And therefore, even though it is present in the midst of creatures and lives unknown and suffocated, it does not stop. It does not depart for its own celestial regions, but persists in remaining in their midst to make itself known. It would want to make everyone know the good it wants to do, its celestial laws, its insuperable love, its heartbeat that palpitates light, sanctity, love, gifts, peace, happiness. And such does it want the children of its kingdom. And this is the reason for its life in you, for its knowledges, to make known what divine will means. And I enjoy and remain hidden in my very will, to give it all the field, and the carrying out of its life in you. February 28th, 1928. Just as God has the hierarchy of angels in heaven with 9 distinct choirs, so will he have the hierarchy of the children of his kingdom with 9 more choirs. Condition of the late confessors, and how the memory of Father de Francia will not be extinguished in this work. I was thinking about the holy divine volition, and 1,000 thoughts crowded my poor mind. They seemed like many stronger lights that were arising, that then unified themselves within the same light of the eternal sun of that Fiat that knows no setting. But who can say what I was thinking? I was thinking about the many knowledges spoken to me by Jesus on the divine will, and how each of them brings a divine life into the soul, with the imprint of a rarity of beauty, of happiness, but distinct from one another, that it places in common with one who has the good of knowing it and of loving it. So I thought to myself, one knowledge more or one less, there will be great difference between one soul and another. So I felt sorrow in remembering my late confessors, who had had so much interest in making me write what blessed Jesus would tell me on the divine will. I felt sorrow for venerable Father de Francia, who had made so many sacrifices in coming from far away, meeting expenses for the publication. And just when things were moving forward, Jesus brought him to heaven with himself. So, since these did not possess all that regards the Fiat, they will not possess all the lives and rarities of beauty and happiness that these knowledges contain. But while my mind was wandering amidst many thoughts, such that if I wanted to tell them all, I would be too long, my sweet Jesus stretched out his arms within my interior, and spreading light, he told me, "My daughter, just as I have the hierarchy of angels, with 9 distinct choirs, so will I have the hierarchy of the children of the kingdom of my divine Fiat. It will have its 9 choirs, and they will distinguish themselves from one another according to the varieties of beauties that they have acquired by knowing, some more, some less, the knowledges that pertain to my Fiat. Therefore, each additional knowledge about my divine volition is one new creation that it forms in creatures, of happiness and of unreachable beauty, because it is a divine life that runs within it, bringing within itself all the shades of the beauties of He who manifests them, and all the keys and sounds of the joys and happinesses of our divine being. So if our paternal goodness exposes its life, its beauty, and happiness to the point of creating it in the midst of creatures, and they do not interest themselves in knowing it, in order to take it by means of our knowledges already given to them, it is not right that they receive either the beauty or the sounds of our joys as their own endowments. They will take what they have known. Therefore, there will be various choirs in the hierarchy of the kingdom of my divine will. If you knew what difference will pass between those who bring my knowledges from the earth and those who will acquire them in heaven. The first will have them as their own endowments, and one will see in them the nature of the divine beauty, and will hear the same sounds of the joys and happinesses that their Creator makes one hear and forms. On the other hand, in the second, these will be neither their own nature nor their own endowments, but they will receive them as the effect of the communication of others, almost as the earth receives the effects of the sun, but does not possess the nature of the sun. Therefore, those who will possess all the knowledges will form the highest choir, and according to their knowledge, so will the different choirs be formed. However, all those who have acquired these knowledges, whether in full or in part, will have the noble title of children of my kingdom, because for one who has the good of knowing them, in order to make them one's own life, these knowledges on my fiat have the virtue of ennobling the creature, and of making the vital humors of the divine life flow within the soul, and of raising her to her first origin. And they are like the brush of the "Let us make man in our image and likeness," and they portray the image of the Creator in the creature. As for some knowing more and some less, then the nobility of these will not be destroyed. It will happen, for example, as to a noble family that has many children, some of whom give themselves to studying, and others to fine arts. Those elevate themselves more, have high and decorous positions, are known, loved, and esteemed more, since because of the sciences that they possess, they do more good in the midst of the people that the other brothers do not do. But in spite of this, the fact that, by their sacrifices, these elevate themselves so much, does not destroy the other brothers being noble, because all of them carry within themselves the noble blood of their father, and therefore they dress in a noble fashion. They have noble manners in operating and in speaking, in everything. Such will be the children of my fiat, all noble. They will lose the roughness of the human volition, the miserable rags of passions, the darkness of doubts, of fears, will be put to flight by the light of my knowledges, and will cast all into a sea of peace. Therefore, your confessors, who have passed into the next life, will be like the prelude of the children of my will. In fact, the first one sacrificed himself very much and worked to help the tiny little field of your soul. And even though at that time I spoke to you little about my fiat, because first I had to dispose you, he will be like the first herald, like the dawn that announces the day of the kingdom of my will. the second and the third confessors of yours, who so much participated, and knew in great part the knowledges of my will, and made so much sacrifice, especially the third one, who so much loved that they become known, and sacrificed himself so much in writing, will be like the rising sun, that placing itself on its course, forms the day full of light. Those who follow will be like the full midday of the great day of my will. According to the interest they have had and will have, they will be placed, some at the first hour of the day of my volition, some at the second, some at the third, and some at the full midday. And do you think that the memory of Father de Francia, his many sacrifices and desires to make my will known, to the point of initiating the publication, will be extinguished in this great work of my divine fiat, only because I brought him with me to heaven? No, no, on the contrary, he will have the first place, because by coming from far away, he went as though in search of the most precious thing that can exist in heaven and on earth, of the act that glorifies me the most, or rather, will give me complete glory on the part of creatures, and they will receive complete goods. He prepared the ground so that my divine will might be known, so much so that he spared nothing, neither expenses nor sacrifices. And even though the publication did not have its completion, by even just initiating it, he prepared the ways so that one day the work of my will in the midst of creatures can be known and have life. Who will ever be able to destroy the fact that Father de Francia has been the first initiator in making known the kingdom of my will? And only because his life was extinguished, the publication did not have its completion. So when this great work becomes known, his name, his memory, will be full of glory and of splendor, and he will have his prime act in a work so great, both in heaven and on earth. In fact, why is there a battle going on, and almost everyone yearns for victory, to win in holding the writings on my divine fiat? Because he had brought the writings with himself in order to publish them. Had it not been so, who would have talked about it? No one. And if he had not made others comprehend the importance, the great good of these writings, no one would have interested himself. Therefore, my daughter, my goodness is so great that I reward justly and superabundantly the good that the creature does, especially in this work of my will that I so much care for. What will I not give to those who occupy and sacrifice themselves in order to place in safety the rights of my eternal fiat? I will exceed so much in giving as to make heaven and earth astonished. On hearing this, I thought to myself, if these knowledges contain so much good, if blessed Jesus continues after my death with more knowledges on his fiat to other souls, will a work so great not be attributed to that work? And Jesus, moving as though hurriedly in my interior, added, No, no, my daughter. Just as of Father de Francia, it will be said that he has been the first propagator, and your confessors have been cooperators, so it will be said that the little daughter of my will has been the first and the depository of a good so great, to whom it was entrusted, and who was chosen with a special mission. Suppose that someone has made an important invention. It might be that others propagate it, diffuse it more, imitate it, expand it. But no one will be able to say, "I am the inventor of this work." It will always be said, "The inventor was such and such." The same will be with you. It will be said that the origin of the kingdom of my Fiat, the depository, was the little daughter of my will. March 3rd, 1928. How all things start from one point. Sublimeness of the state of Adam. Why our Lord has not manifested his happy state until now. How one who possesses the unity possesses the source of good. My poor heart was swimming in the sorrow of the privation of my sweet Jesus, and I was worried about it. I felt myself being suffocated by sorrow, and at any cost I would have wanted to find him, for whom I am so tortured, so as to speak my anguishes. But while I was thinking of this, my lovable Jesus moved in my interior and told me, "My daughter, do not fear what you feel in your soul, because it is nothing other than the crafting that my divine Fiat is doing in you. It is enclosing everything in you, everyone and everything in you, all past and future centuries, so that everything that the Supreme Volition has done in creation may cast its seed into you, to receive from you the satisfactions and the requital for all of its acts that creatures owe it. Therefore do not worry, because in each hour of your life it is centuries that my will encloses, and so it is necessary that one who must have her original act in my will reigning must have the origin of it, to be able to carry out its divine life. All things start from one point, and from that point they expand and diffuse to all. See, the sun also has its first point, its center of light, its sphere, and from its center it fills with light the whole earth. Therefore follow my will and do not be concerned." So I continued my round in the divine will, and as I arrived at Eden, to unite myself to the state of Adam before sinning, when he possessed the unity with his Creator, in order to start again my acts together with him, and to make up for him, and continue that unity when he lost it by falling into sin, I thought to myself, why has blessed Jesus not manifested to anyone the sublime state, the wonders that passed between Adam innocent and his Creator, the sea of the happinesses, of the beauties he possessed? Everything was centralized in him. Everything started from him. Oh, if the state of Adam, his great prerogatives, were known, maybe all would yearn to return to his origin, from which man came. But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior, and all goodness told me, "My daughter, my paternal goodness only manifests a good when it must bring some utility to creatures. If I do not see this, why manifest it? The history of man innocent is too tender for me. In merely remembering it, my love rises, overflows, and forms its huge waves, to then pour itself as it used to pour itself upon Adam innocent, and finding no one upon whom to pour, because it does not find another Adam who would receive it, capable of giving me his outpourings of love in return, since my divine Fiat, whole within him, maintained the reciprocal life of correspondence between the infinite and the finite, my love suffers, and returning my own waves of love into me, because it finds no one upon whom to pour it, it remains suffocated by my love itself. This is why I have not manifested the state of Adam innocent until now, nor did he manifest almost anything of his happy state, because in merely remembering it, he felt himself dying with sorrow, and I felt myself being suffocated by my love. Now, my daughter, wanting to restore the kingdom of my divine will, I see the utility of manifesting the state of Adam innocent, and this is the reason why I often speak to you about his sublime state, because I want to repeat what I did with him, and by virtue of my volition, I want to elevate you to the original state of the creation of man. What can the creature who possesses my Fiat, the unity of it, not give me? She can give me anything, and I can give everything. So, being able to give what I manifest, my love does not suffocate my waves. On the contrary, it puts them out, and seeing them reproduced in the creature, it enjoys, and I feel drawn to manifest what is not known, for their utility and good. If you knew how much I enjoy in giving, how my love celebrates when I see the creature disposed, wanting to receive my goods, you would be more attentive to let me pour out my contained love. After this, he kept silent, and I felt as though sunken in the divine volition. Its wonders, what the soul can do by possessing its will, enraptured me. And I, tiny little one, swam in the sea of light of the Fiat. And as I moved, so would waves of light rise, invested with tints of varied beauty, that would then go to unload themselves into the womb of my Creator. And the paternal goodness, seeing himself invested by the waves of his little one, moved his waves toward me. O Supreme Will, how admirable you are, lovable, desirable, more than life itself. You love me so much as to put me in a contest with my Creator, wanting me to be even with he who created me. But while my mind was wandering in the Fiat, my sweet Jesus added, my daughter, one who possesses the unity of my volition, is free to act and to do as much good as she wants, because she has the source of good within herself. She has it at her disposal. She feels within herself the continuous touches of her Creator, the waves of his paternal love, and would feel too ungrateful if she did not form her waves. More so, since she feels her own little sea flow within her soul from the immense sea of he who created her. On the other hand, one who does not possess its unity does not possess the source. Therefore, if she wants to do some good, she needs the divine liberality in each good act she wants to do. Almost act by act, she has to ask for the grace to be able to do the good she wants to do. On the contrary, for one who possesses my unity, good converts into her own nature. And if she just wants to operate, she finds the source of good within herself, and she operates. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 23, Part 15. Fiat.